Conditions May Apply by CinnamonPinecones. Read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 36. Turning a New Leaf. Giving in to the inevitable. Days turned into weeks, and the burn on his side was finally in the clear. It still hurt a bit, but for it to get infected now would have to be an act of God. Eraserhead had been periodically bullying him into taking a day off, and his weird bout of eerie silence had come and gone, but he was still watching him like a hawk. Other than that, things had been going well. Shinso-san had been making good on her promise to bring him breakfast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as well as abducting him for dinner once a week. As he got his strength back, he'd been sorting through scraps at Dagobah in hopes that he could get enough pocket change to maintain the payments on his second burner phone. Since the days were getting longer, he was considering using the nights he went over to the Shinso's house as a break day so that he could stay later. He knew he shouldn't. He knew getting involved was a bad idea. But at this point, it was too late. There was no way he wasn't going to get his heart broken when everything went to crap, so he figured he might as well enjoy it while he can. After playing around with the idea for nearly a full week, he texted Eraser. Ivy. All right, I relent. We can take one break day a week, but it's going to be randomly generated every Sunday night. Eraserhead. I was beginning to think you were taking a very roundabout way to try and kill me. Ivy. Sorry you can't keep up, old man. This week is Tuesday. Eraserhead. Noted. You need to work on your strength. You can't take people down with those noodle arms. Hitoshi gasped in mock offense. You need to work on your height. You can't take people down being 4'0" nothing, he taunted back under his breath. Oh, really? You want to bet on that, Shinso? Ah, no, I'm sorry. You're terrifying. It was just so easy to... Ah! Hitoshi cried as he ran away, only for Midoriya to trip him with the rope dangling off the broken swing. Hitoshi glared up at him after tasting dirt for at least the 10th time today. That was low, he said with a disgruntled face. You've got to use your environment to your advantage, he defended. Also, you should watch where you're going. For at least the 10th time today, Midoriya offered him a hand and pulled him back to his feet. What's the deal with this swing anyway? You guys ever gonna fix it? Midoriya asked. Hitoshi looked at it with a sad smile before responding, My dad made it, and one day it just broke. It's been like that ever since. Oh, well, do you want me to fix it? Midoriya offered, looking guilty for bringing it up. No, it's fine. We don't have a ladder. We have no idea how he even got it up there to begin with, he said with a wry laugh. Greenie paused for a moment to study the rope, and then the tree. He took a few seconds, seemingly trying to decide if he should say what he was going to say. I don't need a ladder. I can fix it if you want me to. He sounded anxious about it. His stutter always got worse when he was anxious. You don't have to do that, Midoriya, he placated. I know, but I want to. I mean, if you want me to. He chewed at his lip before continuing. You guys do so much for me, and I can't. I don't have any way to pay you back, so if I can help with this, I want to. He sputtered out inelegantly. You don't have to pay us back, Midoriya. We're friends, right? That's just what friends do, I think. But you can fix it if you want. Wait, what do you mean you don't need a ladder? Hitoshi asked. In response, Greenie just looked at him with one of his rare shit-eating grins. looped the end of the rope around his belt, and took a running start toward the fence. A few strides before he was about to run into it, he leapt up and used it as a springboard to launch himself back at the tree. He jumped off the tree and landed back on top of one of the fence posts, and then swung himself up and off the nearest branch and climbed over to where the other rope was still attached to the tree. Straddling the branch, he casually unlooped the rope from his belt, then started tying it back around the branch where it belonged. Hitoshi stood there for a moment with his jaw practically on the ground. What in the ever-loving hell was that? How did you do that, Midoriya? He exclaimed after he got over the initial shock of realizing his best and only friend was apparently part monkey. Midoriya just threw his head back, laughing, then finished tying the rope. Give it a good yank. Make sure it's secure, he called down to Hitoshi. Hitoshi did as instructed and even went so far as to step up onto it and give it a few test swings. Looking back up at Midoriya, he gave a thumbs up. Is it level? Probably should have checked that first, he shot back. Hitoshi stepped off the swing and walked a few paces away to check. It's level enough. I wouldn't notice if I wasn't looking for it, he shouted up. Now how are you going to get down from there, oh great ninja master? Midoriya threw a twig at him for the shit joke, and it landed right in his hair. What the hell? Why are you so good at everything? He asked as he attempted to extract the twig that was thoroughly tangled in his locks. It takes practice to be this insufferable, and I take my job very seriously, he quipped back, managing to keep a straight face for all of 2 seconds. After verifying that the swing was where it needed to be, he climbed back over to the fence and dropped down, landing squarely with one foot on a 4x4 top of the 6-foot-tall fence post. After pivoting on one foot, he jumped down to the ground, landing with a roll and springing seamlessly up to his feet. After watching that, it occurred to Hitoshi that despite hanging out with Midoriya for at least an hour, 3 to 4 days out of the week for nearly the past 2 years, he knew next to nothing about him. He had no clue how he learned to do that. He had no clue where he lived. He had no clue what his family or other friends were like. He didn't even know his favorite color. They got along well, but they never talked about anything. How do you spend 2 years around someone and not talk about anything of importance? In all fairness, Hitoshi hadn't been much more forthcoming in his own personal information either, but Midoriya never asked, so he never told. Maybe that went both ways? Was he supposed to ask about that stuff? It seemed like the kind of thing that would just come up naturally, but clearly it hadn't, and it looked like it wasn't going to. How the hell do you know how to do that, Greenie? He asked again. He just shrugged and said, practice. Like that explained everything. You're telling me you just taught yourself how to do that? For what? Fun? He pressed. Pretty much, yeah. Midoriya was a never-ending font of questions. He could spell out his entire life story, and Hitoshi would probably still be left scratching his head. What's your favorite color? He blurted out. Huh? Midoriya responded, understandably confused by the non sequitur. We're like best friends, and I don't know the first thing about you. So, what's your favorite color? He asked again. Midoriya looked a little surprised and uncomfortable at the call-out, but he answered regardless. Oh, is it too cliched to say green? He asked with a strained laugh. Well, is it too cliche to say mine's purple? He asked before amending, it's actually black, but that's a really boring answer, and purple's probably my second favorite anyway. Greenie let out a little exhale from the nose, kind of laugh, and said, I like red too. It's probably my second favorite. All right, now you ask a question, he said as he sat down in the plush grass. Are we playing an icebreaker game? Midoriya asked as he sat down across from him. That was a terrible question. Yes, we are. Now, ask a better one, he said with a sly grin. Midoriya just looked at him with an exasperated expression. Come on, we've been friends for like a year. We're supposed to know stuff about each other. Ask a better question, he prompted again. Uh, okay. Uh, do, uh, do you have any hobbies? Well, at least they both ask equally shit questions. I play video games, and I read a lot when I can't sleep, which is most of the time, Hitoshi answered. What kind of books do you read? Hey, that's two questions, plus you didn't answer your own yet, he argued. Greenie made a face and put his hands up in mock surrender before answering, well, aside from that, he paused to gesture vaguely at the tree. I like to draw, but I'm not very good at it. You draw? Can I see? Hitoshi responded with enthusiasm. That was two questions, Greenie shot back in a high-pitched mocking tone. Hitoshi pulled up a handful of grass and threw it at him. Fine, the rules are stupid anyways. I read a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. Now show me your drawings, Hitoshi exclaimed. After seeing Midoriya's wide eyes and faint blush, he added, if you want to. No, it's okay. It's just, He trailed off and started fiddling with the hem of his shirt. He looked like he was thinking about how to finish that sentence, so Hitoshi gave him a moment. I normally draw as part of another hobby, and, people don't normally like it much, he finished. What do you mean people don't normally like it? What is it? He asked, but Midoriya didn't look like he wanted to answer. I'm not actually going to make fun of you, Greenie. Only as a joke, and I promise I won't even joke about this. He studied his face for a minute, like he was trying to suss out if he was being genuine or not, and, ow, okay, that kind of hurt. He told himself not to take it personally, though. Midoriya didn't seem to trust anyone, so he shouldn't be surprised by his hesitance. After a few seconds of strained silence, he nodded his head, got up, walked over to his bag, and brought it over. I like to do, quirk analysis, as well as costume analysis, so I do my best to draw out different heroes and their gear to supplement my notes, he said as he rifled through his bag and pulled out a beat-up notebook labeled Hero Analysis Part 10. He handed it to Hitoshi like he was passing him a loaded gun pointed straight back at him. He gently took it out of his hand and set it in his lap to give Midoriya the opportunity to change his mind. When he didn't, he started flipping through the pages. The drawings weren't elementary, but they definitely weren't professional. They were a solid intermediary level, and leagues better than anything Hitoshi could do. Each drawing was clearly recognizable, which was the point, so they served their purpose. The front said it was the 10th volume, but the drawings at the end were already better than the ones at the beginning. He had no clue how long this took Midoriya to do, but if he kept on this track, he'd be drawing photorealism in no time. After flicking through the pictures, he stopped on a random page and started reading. The entry was on a hero he'd never heard of before, but there were 3 full pages analyzing not only their quirk and costume, but the reasoning behind their persona and changes they could make to improve their public image. It also went into detail about their strengths and weaknesses, as well as what kinds of opponents would be a good match for them and what kinds would be the worst. Most of it was things he would have never thought of, and a good bit of it went over his head entirely. If he had any doubts about Greenie being a genius, they were thoroughly assuaged by this notebook. He didn't realize how absorbed he was in the notes until he noticed Midoriya's furious fidgeting out the corner of his eye. Oh shit, he probably shouldn't leave him hanging like that. Midoriya, this is amazing. Where do you even get all this information? He asked. Midoriya blushed even harder at that. With his hair and freckles, he was doing a pretty stellar impression of a strawberry right now. Uh, the news and people post stuff to YouTube and other social media all the time, he replied. You get all this information just from watching them fight? Hitoshi asked incredulously. Somehow, Greenie's blush deepened. Yeah, mostly. Midoriya, this is incredible. I would have thought you'd interviewed this guy directly with all the information you've got here. Holy shit. Oh, he said that a little too loud. He quickly glanced over his shoulder back toward the house to make sure his mom didn't hear that. When she didn't come bursting out the door wielding a spatula and empty threats, he turned back to Midoriya. What do you think you could do if you actually got to interview someone? You'd probably know more about them than they do, he remarked as he continued skimming through other entries. I don't think that's true. Do you only do analysis on heroes? Maybe you could do one for someone you know, so you can ask them questions like one of your friends or something, he said without thinking. Oh, shit, that sounded like a request. Shit. When he made hesitant eye contact with Midoriya, he just looked sad. Oh, yeah. He said people don't like his analysis. Damn it. Can he just have one real conversation without screwing it up royally? He can see how people wouldn't like all their flaws being laid out in front of them. No, I only really do heroes. He trailed off. Oh, great. Here it comes. Never mind. Oh, thank Kami. Dinner should be ready soon. Did you want to beat me up some more, or should we head in? He joked in an attempt to lighten the mood. Let's head in and see if your mom could use a hand, he said as he stuffed his notebook back in his bag and headed toward the door. End of chapter.